Hey, what's happening, everybody? Chandler Bolt here, joining me as always. We've got Sean Sumner in the house, our community manager here at Self-Publishing School. Welcome to another Monday Night Hangout. If you could do me a favor and let me know that A, you can hear me, and B, that you can see me. If you'll comment in the main thread inside the event, inside the Facebook event, in the thread that says post your questions here. If you'll just let me know that you can hear me and see me there. We've got a bunch of questions coming in. If you're a new member, hopefully you enjoyed the new member orientation that just wrapped up just a couple minutes ago. I'll be touching on that a little bit later, and we got the replay and everything. If you missed that, definitely highly recommend it if you just joined the program. This is something that we do, especially for people who just joined in the last little bit. So if that's you, you're going to find that really helpful.
And if you guys were there, then you're going to get more of me because I just finished even an hour over there. And so you get some more, and we're coming up with some Q&A on this side.
It's your lucky day. Let's see. We got Tad in the house, Jen, Evie, Brianna, Jolene, Stephanie. Awesome. Looks like
so our last couple of weeks have been our most views ever in the last that we've ever been doing these hangouts. So I just want to give you guys a lot of credit for showing up to these hangouts, putting in some great questions and interacting with each other. And just really, I think it's a great tool for everybody to learn and gain. And I appreciate you guys all being here.
Let's do it. Well, let's go ahead and dive in, Sean. You want to pull up the slides and we can start going through there?
Yeah, and you guys go ahead and post your questions now because we have a lot of questions today, and we want to make sure we get to everybody's question. And of course, just like always, we do have kind of a hard stop. We want to make sure that we respect your time and that we are able to get to everybody's questions as well. All right, so we are up with the slides. So our agenda today, just like every day, we're going to go over our kudos, talking about people that are doing great things, our members that are sharing great tips in the community. We'll talk about our book launches. We have some great books launching this week. Our wall of fame of people who are really contributing to the community at a really high level, and then our community updates as well. So first of all, some kudos. As it say on Bristol, who's been pushing to write a book and have succeeded in completing the first draft by the chosen time. And that's huge, right? Getting it done by the time you said you were going to get it done. So kudos to you. And then Deanna Welsh, who's new to the group, but has already got the rough draft done. So congratulations to you as well. And then kudos to Arter, who said, guys, I can't thank you enough for the support. Just hit the #1 bestseller badge. He launched last week with the book about artificial intelligence. Excellent book, already at the #1 bestseller badge, doing really well. Excellent launch for him. James Tanner, yesterday, August 27th, looked at the page and saw it was a bestseller. So again, great job and congratulations. And Rebecca VJ, My Angel in Heaven is #1 in 4 categories in Amazon Australia. Unbelievable. So kudos to you. Congratulations to all you guys and your success. We're able to see those launch recently, and then to see the success they're already having is amazing. Some people who are sharing great tips. Again, you kind of see this pattern of people who are doing well and in the group with people who are sharing their tips, right? And it's really helpful. So James says, don't give up on your book, put it out there and let it work for you. Talking about the book was out for a while and just recently looked and got that bestseller badge. So we just talked about that a second ago, but putting in great tips for people just to keep pushing forward. So Kathy Heschlow says, if I can do it, you can. I think she had 3 books all listed as bestsellers within the same screenshot. So she's pushing forward, just doing great things. Great job, Kathy. And then Jim Molinelli, who had some great tips on AMS ads, buried in the details, and Jim is crushing it with AMS ads. And so if there's anyone to really look, I'm looking for this post because Jim has just been doing some really great stuff with AMS ads and making a lot of money through that platform.
Awesome. We got 3 books launching this week. We've got How to Get Divorced Without Losing Your Blouse, What Every Woman Needs to Know to Protect Her Future. That's by Patricia Stallworth. And that launches on the 1st.
Still one of the best titles I can remember in recent history here.
I love it. I love it. So that launches on the 1st. Be sure to check that out. We've got Blind Prophet episode, The Prophet Goes to Washington. That's Joseph C.O. Jr. That just came out comes out on the 29th, which is tomorrow. So be sure to check that out. as well as Make Nutrition Fun, in food fights and find family peace in just 30 days. That's Catherine Kemp Gwele, and that just launched today. Be sure to check that out. That's a topic.
And she's got some really solid books out there too. So if you're looking at a book to kind of model after, she's done some really great things with her books as well.
Awesome, yeah, and that's a topic that's really close to my heart. So definitely check that out. Let's see, top engaged members and top influencers. So if you're new, top engaged members are people who are supporting others. Top influencers are people who are posting helpful things for other people in the community that are helpful to them. So top engaged members, we've got Deborah Scott, Nadea Lebadens, we've got Gail Collinson, Marcy Pusey, and Jill Young Rogers. And then for our top influencers, we got Scott Allen, who's one of our coaches, one of the self-publishing school coaches here. We've got Nadea. We've got Tad, who I think I just saw is here in attendance tonight. We've got Jennifer Walters and Sansari Lease. So shout out to all you guys for making the community awesome.
All right, our featured action plan and blog post this week. So our action plan is social media for authors. Right, so this is an action plan you have available in your membership area. If you were on the Hangout just a little bit ago, we talked about exactly how to find these and where to get your action plans. Full of great information. So this is social media for authors, really talking about how to connect with your audience and build those relationships with your readers using social media. So check out this action plan as part of your Mastermind community membership. So you should all have access to that. And our featured blog post this week is Kindle Advertising 101. So we've had a lot of talk about this recently, whether it's Jim's post about AMS ads. I see that we have a question already in there talking about what are AMS ads. This post is for you because it talks about just the, setting up those, and that's so Kindle, this is jumping out on me. Kindle Advertising 101 is a featured blog post. So our community updates, really, I just want to make sure that we are welcoming our new students. I'm so happy to have everybody here, especially everybody that's new in attendance tonight. I just want to welcome you to our group. I'm really proud of the group that we have. We have one of the best groups anywhere on the internet, in my opinion. And so I want to make sure that you guys feel welcome to this. And if you haven't checked it out already, we just finished up our new member orientation. You can check out the replay with this link. Or if you go to the events tab within the community, you'll be able to find the new member orientation. We talked about how to get to your action plans, how to post within the group, how to search things, all the different things that you need to know as a new member to be successful. We went over in that orientation.
Cool. Yeah, so in case you missed it last week, I did a webinar just for SPS alumni. So ignore this if you're a new student. But this is for alumni. So this is kind of, okay, I finished my book, what's next? Like how to move beyond the book, not only to sell more books, but especially to build a thriving book-based business. I kind of break down a lot of teaching that I've never taught before. So how I've built SPS past $5 million in the last 2.5 years, and kind of lay out the blueprint for you for making your first $10,000 beyond your book. So the replay, if you missed it, is there. You can find the link as well. And also on that, I talked about a new intensive that I'm doing. I've never done anything like this. I've never taught the business side really, but this is an in-person event that's coming up in about 6 weeks or so here. So if you're an alumni and that's something that you're interested in, we officially closed the applications last week, but I figured a decent amount of people missed it. So if you did miss it and you want to apply, you can go there and apply like today or tomorrow. There's really small seating for this event, and we're over halfway to getting this sucker filled up, which is pretty exciting, and that definitely happened faster than I expected. But all the stuff along this event is ending this week. So we're finishing up and we'll officially sell that out over the next couple of days. So that's kind of a first come, first served basis. So if that's something you're interested in, fill out the application tonight. Or if you just want to check out the replay and check out the webinar, you can find the replay there as well.
Our featured expert hangout for this week is our one with John Corcoran. He talks about how to sell books, mobilize an audience or build an audience using webinars. So just if you're getting ready, I know we have a lot of people on here who are using their book to go and build either through a course or different things, build a back-end monetization strategy and using webinars. And I think Robbie, is on here tonight. He's got a webinar coming out and just released. So there's a lot of people doing this. This is to get some good tips from John Corcoran, who's an excellent resource for some of this. This is available inside your membership area in the feature as an expert hangout.
Cool. One final thing here, the SPS podcast, Self-Publishing School podcast. This is a really good one, actually, in the theme of turning your book into a business or into especially like an online course. Jeff Walker, who is one of my mentors and friends, he came on the podcast, talked about how he leveraged a book and hit the New York Times list. Which I know one of our coaches, Ari Vance's, they've been making a run at the New York Times list this past week, but he kind of breaks down that piece of the equation as well as how to use your book or how he used his book to do a multi-million-dollar product launch. So he breaks that down. So pretty great episode. Check it out. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Got another great episode coming out tomorrow.
All right, let's get into some questions. We got a nice long list of questions. Let's get to them. And I know we had some people jumping in that said they're here. So lovely to see everybody here. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so let's see. We got Stephanie, Karen, Jane, Beth, Laura, our product dev manager at SPS. We got Teresa, Batul, as well as Kathy says, finally able to make it on a Monday. Great to have you, Kathy.
I love how Laura, like, we got all these people, you're doing great, you're looking great. And Laura's like, you're okay. You're looking all right.
You're looking good, Sean.
Oh, yes. You too, sir. You too, sir. Let's get into some questions here. First one is coming up from Franklin. So I recently heard about an indie author day. How can I get the most out of it? For example, if I only have an ebook, how can I promote said ebook for this event? Or simply how to better myself at this event? Thanks.
Yeah, great question. So what I'm looking for events is I don't want to be the person to peddle my book, like try to get everyone that I meet to buy it per se. That's not my strategy at these events. There's a couple paths that you can take. Number one is looking for acquaintances that or mentors, strategic partners. That's what I'm usually doing because a lot of these events, the people that you meet is actually way more impactful than the content that they're teaching. So I'm looking to add value to as many people as possible and help them out. And in doing so, you know, I often find some of our biggest affiliate partners and people that I learn a ton from. But a lot of that goes beyond the event. So me personally, I wouldn't focus so much on selling a ton of books at these type of events because that's what everybody's doing. And you know, if you've been to one of them, it's like people are just trying to slam you with their stuff. And so if you take the other approach, it's actually quite refreshing for people.
All right, I'm actually going to step back just a little bit and talk. If you are new and you're coming over from the new member orientation, we talked about this, that there's a link at the top or a post at the top that's pinned that says post your questions here. And that's where you're going to post your question. Just put it as a comment in the bottom. So it'll get in line in the queue here for all the questions. And you can follow along by just going to the top of those comments. And we're going to answer those questions in line as they're written here. So the next question is from Lana, who I got to speak with earlier today. I'm very excited for her book. She said, I've been working on my book. Title of the book is being edited. It was originally Healthy to Wealthy. The subtitle not figured out then, but going through the exercises, she has some subtitles too. So narrow it down to, and this is so everybody gets to look at this and vote, and we'll go through this, Chandler. So 4. Number 1, health to wealth. Number 2, so these are for titles. So number 1, health to wealth. Number 2, the wealth transformation. Number 3, wealth and happiness. Number 4, the wealthy life. I define and talk about health and wealthy throughout the entire book. So I thought I felt should at least have wealth included. And if you guys aren't seeing this, she has wealth. So W-E-L-L are capitalized and the T-H are small. So talking about being well and mixed feelings on using the health. What are your thoughts?
Let's see. So you want to give some thoughts. I need a little bit more time.
Yeah. So she's talking about, you know, as when she says wealthy, she's really referring to being well and whole and not being wealthy as far as money. I actually think that that's going to be lost on a lot of people who haven't read your book. So my first inclination is definitely not the health to wealth. because that's going to confuse people a little bit there, because they're going to our minds are built so that we don't see those letters changed, right? So we see the first and last letter and we fill in what we want. So we're automatically going to think you're saying wealth as in money. And so I think that you're going to lose a lot of people, and it's being very kind of cute with this, which I think is what you're going for. And you talk about it in your book, and I think it's able to reveal it in the book. I think you have to be careful with that. And so I would actually think like the wealthy life is probably the best of the bunch, because you can still have that feeling, because it's talking about wealthy in two different ways. So of those, I think that that's definitely, or let's see, wealth and happiness, because again, you're talking about happiness. So I would say wealth and happiness or wealth and health, but just be careful on how you do that, because a lot of people won't see what you're doing with those words, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Yeah, I completely agree. I think you're trying to be cute here. And I actually don't like any of these. I agree with Sean. I would pick number 4 as the best of these, but I think you should go back to the drawing board here, because I don't instantly get what your book's about. And for me, the litmus test is, do I instantly understand it within 2 seconds? Like, do I get it? And I don't get it. And even I kind of would if it was, let's see, the wealthy life. Like, I still wouldn't understand it. I would need a very good subtitle. And in my opinion, there needs to be a differentiator. There's a lot of health and wellness books out there. There needs to be a differentiator in the subtitle. Like, go as specific and as niche as you can, because that's what's going to help people identify with whether or not this book's going to be a good fit for them. So I just think you need to go back to the drawing board here. It seems like a lot of people are agreeing. Lana says, awesome feedback, and said, learn tons from Sean. Thanks. Yeah, the one thing I don't want you to be discouraged, because it probably feels like a lot of us are ganging up on you. But this is like the value of this group is that we're going to give you frank feedback, right? So in this case, I think it's a miss. But so what I would recommend doing is exactly what I recommend in the course. Is like, try explaining this book to a friend, and then record you explaining it to them, and the actual descriptors that you use in that description are probably, there's usually, anytime I get someone to explain this to me, and if you have a coach, do this with your coach and they can help you with this as well. But anytime I get someone to explain their book to me, there's usually the title and subtitle is in that, but then they go into subtitle or title land, which is what I like to call it, which is they try to come up with something cute, which I think is kind of what you've done here. So I would go back, list out like 30 of them, at a minimum of 15 to 30 titles, and there's going to be something good in there. Follow.
Yeah, and I know she's kind of gone, because we talked today. I know you've gone through that exercise once as far as listing the titles, but I think really explaining it, because I know talking to you today that you have a really good story, and I think that you can really bring that out. And I know in this next question you talk about subtitles. So we'll take a quick look at this. I don't want to spend too much time specifically on this title, but I know that you have a really good story, and I think that you can do well explaining, going to that genre and saying very specifically what it is. So these are some subtitles that came up with. It looks like, number 1, 7 simple tools to achieve abundant wellness and wealth today. Number 2, achieve abundant wellness and wealth today with these seven simple and proven methods. Or number 3, immediately transform your wellness and health with just one of these simple tools. So my feedback on that is, of them, the last one seems to be based off of what we've talked about in your book. I think that is more what you're going with it, but I don't know that it's as specific enough to really get me. So I still think that you can do better than these. And I think the first ones, it's abundance and wellness and wealth are very broad topics, and it's hard to get. So I think that you can really get more specific with this on what your message is, because I know in talking to you that you have a very specific message that you've taught with people, and that you have people already looking for this. And I think you can get more specific about it instead of general statements of wellness and wealth.
Yeah, and this is really a lesson for everyone, because when we're answering someone's specific question, I hope that you're not tuning out to wait for your question, right? There's always lessons in here. And the lesson in this particular piece of feedback is get specific. Like, when you think you're not specific enough, get even more specific. So is this health advice for women in their 50s? Is this solely about losing weight? Is this about feeling better in your body? Is this, like, when you're talking about health and abundance, like Sean said, this is huge categories. How can you go down as far as possible and really hone in on the specific benefits that your reader's going to get from this book?
And I know you already have specific readers in mind, like you already have people for this. So think about when you're talking to them, because again, I think that you have a really good book and a really good message, and I'm looking forward to when you get that really dialed in for people. All right, let's go to the next one here. Is this from Maja? Question, I'm a medical doctor doing my residency in psychiatry. I'm writing a self-help book. I was considering writing it in a pen name because I write about my own experience. Mentioned a patient's story, just a few general sentences, not enough to know who it is. The problem is afraid if I publish under my real name, the old-fashioned faculty members might make it difficult for me to finish my residency. The book contains both self-help and professional help aspects of the current, and the current head of our clinic is all about the drugs and doesn't support innovation that much. So what a bummer, right? Do you have any suggestions on what I should do? I'm guessing the copyright notice in the first page just has to be under my real name. And then SPS rules. It's like Doyle rules. SPS
rules. What a great reference. Caught me off guard with that one. Oh, that's great. Doyle rules. Oh man, that's great. So let's see. Suggestions on what you should do. You probably know what I'm going to say, Sean. I would go under your real name. I mean, I think you need to. That's what I would personally do. It's the name that you're trying to hang your hat on. So if that's your real name, then I would do that. If that's a slight variation of your name, then that's fine as well. I personally would go under my real name. I know that you have this worry. My policy was something like this. Well, there's two routes, and I tend to take the second one. Number one is discuss with the person ahead of time and let them know that you have a book in the works. But sometimes they'll try to pull a power move in that situation and just tell you can't do it. So the second one is to publish the book and let them know as you're publishing it. That's my personal policy. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. That's how I would handle it.
I would say, as a medical professional myself, who has been in, not this exact situation, but I've always worried that the people around me were going to say this, that my books, I shouldn't be putting them out because patients are going to get, hurt. It's not wrong information. And I have never, anybody I've ever told of writing this book has ever given me that attitude. It's always been either they're just not interested or they're, that's great. I'm really impressed that you did that. I would love to get a copy of it sometime. I think that if you're worried about this residency, I would really encourage you to go through this under your own name. Be proud of your message. This isn't something for you to be held back by someone whose ideals that you're not believing in. Believe in your message and put it out there and really stand by it. That's my recommendation. All right. So Melina says, what is the best and most time-saving way to get leads through the book for an online course? So in context, this month, I'm launching my self-help book. It's about helping long-distance relationship couples to overcome the distance and build a long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, great question. Love this topic, by the way. I've been in multiple long-distance relationships, and they're tough. So I think this is a big pain point, and I think people are going to love this book. And I haven't seen any information on this, so I'm sure it's out there. But great topic. My two favorite things is the audiobook and video. Some people also do checklists. What you're really looking for is like, what's the main pain point that these people have, and how can you solve it as quickly as possible in something that they can consume in a small amount of time? That's what you're looking for here. So if it's a video on a very specific part of the book that you're talking about, like in this instance, it could be like something about how to know if the long distance relationship is going to work or something like that, right? That could work really well, as well as I know that Jeff chimed in here and Laura did as well. That checklists, I think he said, oh yeah, at the first 10% of the book, yeah, you definitely want to put it in the beginning, whatever you do. But checklist, video, and then audio is my personal choice. Although that does cannibalize some audiobook sales, but for me personally, I don't care.
Looks like next question is from Franklin. As for the table of contents, I'm writing historical fiction. The point of view is first person. I didn't title any chapter except for one. The one title chapter, I guess, is my second main character. So reader can know that I'm switching the point of view. away from the main character. Is this okay? Can I get away with only one chapter heading, which is only name and the rest just chapter 1, 2, 3? It looks like Reglan already kind of said this. If it's historical, you can have the second person's single chapter show up as a fragment of a diary or journal, for example, kind of different things. I personally think, especially for fiction, you can absolutely get away with titling the chapters with or having no title and doing this for one. I think it kind of goes against some rules as far as writing. You know, typically if you're going to have a point of view through the story, you're either going to stick with it or make it a repetitive sequence, like one chapter is one way and the next chapter is not, and one chapter is one way and the next chapter is not. It makes it very hard for the reader to do that. So I think in ways like Reglan said, to incorporate it is probably a bit easier. It will be a little disjointed if you have that. But if you were going to title, I don't see any problem with titling that one chapter. I don't think that's the issue. So if you're looking at that, I would say go ahead and go forward with it. There's not a problem with titling the one chapter. All right, next question is from Latanya. What is the protocol for protecting your work as others look into it? For example, editors, formatters. Do most authors get non-disclosure agreements? Or like, I realize that SPS can't get legal advice. We're more interested in what seasoned authors do to protect their work from leaks.
Yeah, this is not something that I personally worry about. You could certainly do an NDA or something like that when you have people work on your book. But for me personally, it's more, I mean, I'm not J.K. Rowling or you know, some like huge author that if my book were to leak, it would be a big deal. So for me personally, I don't worry about it. I just, you know, I don't have people sign NDAs. I think it's more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, I think the vast majority, and I think 90-some-odd% of people do not. If they're worried about it, they're very easy to write up. The problem is if there were people that were going to do it, they're probably going to do it whether you give them that non-disclosure or not, because then what's the threat? Then you have to go back and sue them and it becomes more time consuming. So nobody's going to market it as like you are through this course. So personally, I don't, but you can grab them very easily, non-disclosure agreements, sample ones from different sites and have them written up and have them signed. It doesn't take long for the person to sign. Next one is from Barbie. It says, I'm writing about seafood nutrition and using evidence from scientific papers to support it. My first chapter came out very short, only a few pages, because I need to review the evidence so I can describe it with total accuracy. I need guidance. Do I bust out the very short drafts of all chapters and then do the research I need? I know the research will take many hours, but I don't want to get stuck. Any advice on process?
Yeah, for me personally, I do the 80-20 of your research up front. So like only the most crucial and important pieces. And then I write out the draft and I'll say, you know, reference research on this, or I'll add in little notes in like all caps in like red text so that I can come back in and add that in after. And so I do enough research to craft my point of view. You know, I don't skimp on research to the point that when I do the research, it's going to totally change the trajectory of my book. So I like to do that because you can get lost in research land for a really, really long time. We also show you in the course, like towards the latter part, how to beef up those chapters and how to add to that so you can really fill it out.
All right, so next question here. Let's see, where are we at now?
Jenny, what's the strategy for ensuring book sales after free promotions are over? During Kindle Select membership, how can you provide instant gratification to buyers when you can't sell an ebook from your website?
So look like two very different questions here. Yeah. So the first one is more like, how do you sustain those sales? And that's a big question, right? That's hard. You know, we can get into all kinds of different strategies for this, how to sustain sales. We can have hour-long segments all week long. And these are things that we do talk about in the group. We have, you know, I just did an advanced marketing webinar for if you guys got that 1-year subscription. So if you got the 1-year subscription to the mastermind community, we're going to be doing advanced marketing webinars once a month, every month. And we just talked about some ways of doing contests, or we're doing group author promotions. Like there's a lot of different things, but the easiest thing, like the one you should start with initially is making sure that you've honed down your keywords and categories, right? You should absolutely start there because that's going to give you the biggest return in the long run. And the second thing that I've seen most people have early success with that's sustainable is getting into AMS ads, so Amazon ads. All right, so those are two strategies that you can work with right away. Otherwise, making sure that you're partnering, you know, like getting the word out as much as you can. And so those, you know, I know that's a general piece of advice, but that's I think general for the question there. So when you're getting into those and you're at that point, you have real specific questions, definitely come back, and I think we can help better for those specific questions. As far as how do you provide instant gratification to buyers when they can't buy an ebook from your website, that's tough. You can have a direct link from your website to go right to Amazon. Like, that's one easy fix, is to go, you can buy it here and just have them go directly to Amazon. It's not that much of a leap for instant gratification. The other thing is, depending on your type, if you're having fantasy novels, you can have short stories. You can have other things that explain. You can have things that lead people in to then purchase the next book. So those are definitely ways that you can get people some instant gratification with something smaller that leads into then a purchase. And I know Susan says, I love AMS ads. So it's definitely something that they've improved quite a bit. And it's something that you can start off with very easy. There's a free course by Dave Chesson on Kindlepreneur. It talks about AMS ads. I know Jim just put a thing in the group about AMS ads. I'm working on a piece for the group for AMS ads as well. It's going to be part of our monthly marketing webinars. So it's something that to look into for sure. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. Next question here is from Tad. Is Tuesday still considered the best day for a launch? First of several free days. And basically, yeah, I mean, Tuesday or Sunday are the 2 days that we've found historically with all the different launches that we've done are the 2 that give the best return. And so I personally like to have mine on Sunday because I'm not focused on other work activities and I can really send out promotions and focus on it. But Tuesday, and especially as far as the major publishing world, Tuesdays have always been thought of as the best days to start that. So it tends to go the same as far as people marketing their own books as well. All right, next question is from Susan. What are your thoughts on sending a PDF to your launch team and asking them to respond with a review prior to your launch? This, of course, assumes that you will ask your launch team to download the Kindle book and leave the review once the book launches. I know Robbie had a great response here because that's exactly what he did, right? I've had a lot of people do this strategy. I think it's a great strategy. And that way you can get that review early and you can just remind them, hey, this is what you said. Can you now go and just download the book and copy and paste this over? You don't have to think about something because you've already said it. It makes it easier. Anything you can do to make it easier for the person posting the review is better. Just know that not everybody's going to do that. So there's still going to be the other people you have to follow the other way. But it worked really well for Robbie.
Yeah, I agree. And Laura also posted in here a link to the action plan inside the membership portal for your mastermind community subscription. That's all about launch teams and how to rally those people.
All right, next question. What are the pros and cons of sending your launch team a link to your book versus asking them to search for it? So there's a couple of things. Number one, asking them to search for it can help kind of have Amazon see that when people search for certain terms, that your book is what they like. So when other people search for those keywords, it may booster that, right? So it may help to have you rank for different keywords. So it's very helpful in that strategy. But the problem is it's an extra step for everybody on your launch team. And every time you add one extra step, you're losing like 10% of your people. So I worry about that being an extra step. I will say that giving the correct link is important. And actually, we've seen variations from this from some, there's a clean link where you're in the share this, but that doesn't always work. We're finding that they may be able to track that. So making sure that you have the appropriate link is very, very important. And getting that link that's a clean link that you can share with people so they have that. So definitely, they both have pros and cons. I give people the link. It's much easier.
For sure. Just give them the link.
All right, Susan, so what's the general feeling about doing a book launch for an updated edition? So it's literally the same day I uploaded my first book last year. I've uploaded today to beat a competitor.
This again, like a lot of questions like this goes back, Susan, to the initial module in the course, which is why are you writing your book and like what does success look like for you? So that's what I would define for yourself. And then whether or not that's selling more books, then it might make more sense to put more effort into relaunching the book. So for me personally, I'd do about a 50% effort if you're going to do an updated like kind of relaunch. But then depending on what your purpose is for the book, I might alter that just a bit.
All right, and then we have a marketing question here from Jeff, and says sorry about the length here, but he watched you on Deadline Funnel Facebook ad where you were talked about how a webinar seemed to be much higher in return on investment than the typical 4-part video series. He's looking at doing that 4-part series because it's easier and faster, but not sure if that's a mistake. His plan is still to do a webinar down the road. What is your insights to keep the video for training and lead magnet? What are your insights on that?
And Jeff is going deep. This is like an interview I did with the founder of Deadline Funnel where I went deep into my funnel stuff. My recommendation is a webinar. I actually think it's easier to do than the video scripts. When I do those videos, I pay like thousands of dollars. I go into a studio. I have to write up all the scripts ahead of time or work with a copywriter to write the scripts. Webinars are just way easier to create and way easier to deliver because you can have all your notes, right? And I'm not on the screen the whole time. Whereas the videos, I got to be looking into a teleprompter, all these things. So I recommend a webinar for sure.
Next question is from Stephanie here. It says, I've been approached by this crowd and this guaranteedauthor.com about working with them to make a book a bestseller for $2,500 US. Have you come across them? They guarantee you be in the top 50 on Amazon, at least one category, or they repeat the process. Do you give them our contact details? This is something that I have not come across. It's nobody that I've heard. They don't get your contact details from us for sure. It has nothing to do with us, so I can't speak to this one at all. And I'm always a little skeptical of this, and I would definitely do your due diligence and research them because I'm always a little skeptical about this.
Yeah, I would definitely not work with them. I'm looking at their website and just their value prop is not that good. Yeah, I would definitely not work with them. Assuming you're enrolled in self-publishing school, you've got everything that you need to be successful here, as well as we can connect you with some low cost or no cost resources that'll get you much more bang for your buck than what you're looking at here.
I was just looking at their guarantee. The guarantee is within the top 50 in at least one category. Like what we're teaching you here is we're like, if you be one category to get a top 50, you're gonna blow that away just what you learned here. And so that's definitely not. I didn't even see that till I read that again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let's see. Kat says, "Hello, virtual friends." This question, Chandler, I know you did all the initial coaching at the beginning of SPS and then added more coaches later. How do you suggest one should go about finding and training coaches? I'm the only one doing everything, so I'm looking into branching out, but I need trustworthy people, but I'm hesitant. Basically, I need a few more of me. Where's that? We had a book like, was it Clone Yourself? We got to go grab that book.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great question, Kat.
I forget who wrote that book. Kat, this is something, I know you're looking at the weekend workshop. I can't remember if you've already signed up or not. This is something we can definitely talk about while we're there, and I've got a pretty good process for this. The way I do it is I only take people who have been through the program, and I just set up the contracts in a very specific way to where they're highly incentivized to do well and have high satisfaction rate from customers, as well as to stay for a long time. Those are the two most important things that I look at here, because the worst thing that can happen is like you have a revolving door of coaches. That's just a horrible experience, both for you as a business owner and for your students. So like those are the two main things to get right in the contract. Like make it financially lucrative for them and make sure that they have proper screening and very thorough training up front. Like go way deeper in that than you might think you should. And if you do that correctly, then you'll have longevity with your coaches.
All right, so Barry's question is next, and I'm gonna have to summarize some of this stuff because it's a long question. But basically, has a new erotic novel, and it looks like he's gonna do this like a choose your own adventure novel. So 3 possible endings, and he wants to figure out how to do this. So the readers are going to stop at some point, have 3 options: read on and enjoy the original conclusion, choose a darker ending, or choose an off-road detour. So options 2 and 3 have a $1 charge while you email the link, or you can carry on and now read on. So you can either read the original ending or click on the other 2 to get alternate endings for what looks like a price. So I think Amazon may have a problem with this. Also thinking to run a competition for those people who had their own ideas on this. Do you think I should charge for this? Do you think I should make it exclusive to the reader? Ask the permission to publish. This is a whole new genre. Like, I'm blown away. This should be for all books. And I think this is an amazing strategy. I have no idea how to implement this. I'm gonna give this to Chandler.
Yeah, Barry, I think you get an A++ for creativity here. This is something I personally wouldn't touch with a 30-foot pole. Because Amazon probably won't be too happy with it. Your readers won't be too happy for it when they feel like they've bought the full book, but then they get halfway through and then they realize they have to pay more money. And just from an execution standpoint, it's way too complicated. So for me, I'd use the KISS method here. Keep it simple, stupid, right? I would keep it simple, Barry. I think this is a great creative idea, but from an execution standpoint, it's really tough.
All right, next one is, was it Kirian? I couldn't get in the orientation. It was on the YouTube. So here's the link. I think Laura's already there, got you the link. You can always catch the replay for that. And hopefully we can get any questions from that. If you just tag me or send me a question. And also, Reglan said sometimes you have to reload the page. And that's just usually delivery as far as YouTube's side of it. So hopefully you're able to get that. If not, send me a message and we'll make sure and get that to you. Frank says, does Amazon allow you to have a course listed on another site like Teachable, Udemy, or Thinkific with the same content and title as your ebook? If so, which should launch first?
Yes.
So my understanding is, oh, go ahead.
Yes, they do. And I would launch the book first because it's easy to take readers or people on your launch team and upsell the course. It's harder to downsell the book.
All right, Miranda says, hi, I was reading on the post on copyright. Since I am in Canada, but plan on selling my book in the USA, do I need a copyright in the USA and Canada or only in Canada? Is it possible to even register a copyright in another country outside your own? So I know you said you were reading the post. Hopefully, I don't know if you saw the blog post specifically. Here's the blog post here.
What she was talking about. And Laura, I linked that up too. I'd lean on our Canadians. This is something that I haven't looked into personally. Usually there's I know there's an assumed copyright in the States. I'd ask any of our Canadian folks who have already published. And then Laura, let's also take a look at this and see if we can edit this blog post once we get the solution to this to improve that.
All right, Lorraine Duncan says, I know I'm thinking far ahead, but just thinking and wondering if I would like an endorsement from an author who is popular on the back cover of my book or inside. Not sure because it won't have a jacket. When in this timeline do I reach out for? So when in this timeline do I reach out for that? After the final draft comes back edited. So she's looking whether she wants an endorsement and on the back cover or inside and when to reach out for that.
Yeah, depending on how well you know the person, I'd either reach out when it's in the final edits or final draft stage. I would earmark a chapter specifically to them, make it, and we have some training on this inside the membership portal, and make it like what's in it for them when you ask, and then make sure that you ask in that way.
And then Robbie put some great comments in there as well. So I appreciate that very much, Robbie. All right, Cindy's got the next question. Move from a different thread. Positive versus negative book titles. For instance, what are the advantages or disadvantages of a title like 10 Easy Ways to Help Your Business Nail Such and Such versus 10 Ways to Avoid Blowing This Critical Facet? Curious about the psychology of it all.
Yeah, my favorite quote here is it's easier to sell pain pills than it is to sell vitamins. So people will do more to avoid pain than they will do to attract pleasure. So me personally, I don't think it's a positive versus negative thing. I think it's a pain versus pleasure thing. I personally err on the side of avoiding pain for the most part. That being said, not a bunch of my books are like pain-based, except for one, How to Not Suck at Writing Your First Book. But I would go on the pain side.
All right, Hanley says, I'm refining my manuscript to be submitted and ready to the editor. What's the next step?
Yeah, just follow the next step in the process inside SPS. You'll do the verbal read through, you'll pass it off to the editor, and then you'll get your book cover, and then you're moving into launch mode.
All right, let's see. Cruising through some of these that people are here. It's great to see everybody here. Looks like Tad had a question about the book launch. Okay, so I think Laura's on that one there. Karen says, I'm concerned that my book is going to be too long. How long is too long?
I wouldn't worry about that until you're finished. I don't think there is such thing as too long unless it's boring or not informative. So for me personally, I like to write past my word target and then be brutal in the editing phase. I tell my editor, unless this is just absolute gold and really great, cut it. Recommend that I cut it. So oftentimes I'll write 5, 10, sometimes even 15, 20,000 words past my word count so I can brutally cut back. That's just my way of trimming to make sure that I'm producing what I feel like is a really high quality book. Because I know that in the process of writing, sometimes I'm going to ramble, right? And it's going to just not be good. So I want to allow for that and have some cushion to be able to cut back.
Man, if I cut 20,000 words from what I wrote, I would be left with nothing. All right. So next, Jen says, "What is an AMD ad?" It was actually AMS ads is what we're talking about, and I know Evie said here Amazon Marketing Services. So thank you, Evie, for chiming in there.
And then check out the feature blog post that explains more about that as well.
Yeah. And Jim says another excellent Monday night hangout. And speaking of AMS, so Jim actually wrote a post within the community talking about just that same thing. So Jenny Jones-Williams says, after launching my novel on Kindle, I'm interested in going to my local bookstore, Barnes & Noble, speaking to the manager and asking if they will stock my book for a fee. What's a reasonable fee to expect to pay for a bookstore to put your novel on their shelf? Is it worth it? How would I go about making my pitch to a manager on why they should sell my novel in their bookstore? First of all, I would say that, yes, I would go and talk to someone about this. But typically the markup that they want for books is they want to have 40%. They want the book for 40%? No, they want to be able to make 40%. Dang it, I forgot that number. The 40% is in there, though. I can tell you that. But it's a difficult process to do. So this is something that I think is low returns. It's great because you can get visibility and it's in your Barnes & Noble. But the returns on it are usually pretty low because the sales are low unless you're doing a speaking fee. So the first thing I would ask is actually go to them and ask to do a book signing or speaking, because they actually usually have people that's their job is to do community outreach. Once you've done that, then the next step is that, okay, while I'm here, then ask to get it on the shelves and see if it, and usually local managers can make that decision, but what they'll do is they'll buy the book from you and then sell it. And a lot of times you won't get that check from that book for months afterwards. So it's definitely not the best way to make money to go into individual stores like that. But I would do the book signing first.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
All right, Robbie says, finally published paperback on CreateSpace. Found 3 minor edits when I was recording the audiobook. I do that every time when I read my books. I'm like, oh, there's another one. Question: I published the paperback so I could order copies for my launch party. I don't want the paperback to be available on Amazon. If I remove all the distribution channels, will it no longer be visible? Is there a delay because it hasn't switched yet? FYI, I heard I should order 2 copies 2 weeks in advance of my launch party to avoid paying extra shipping. Purchasing today was 2 weeks and 1 day with standard shipping of Labor Day. That's the date of my launch, so I paid to get it shipped a week earlier. Worth the 50 cents peace of mind. I'm aiming for 2.5 weeks minimum, maybe 3 to be safe. So first of all, yes, I'm glad you paid that extra money because they will quote you 2 weeks and it may take a little bit longer. It may take a few days longer. I've had it both where they've shipped it early and they've shipped it a couple of days late. So if you are on that tight of a timeline, I'm glad that you did that, but always order ahead of time, because I talked with someone, Danny posted earlier today that she had someone all of a sudden said, yes, we can do it. We have an author event for you and we want you to have books there. And she's like, oh my goodness, I have to, it's 2 weeks from today. I have to get those books. So try and think ahead of time and have some books on hand, and definitely always order, because those shipping fees from Ingram Spark or even from CreateSpace can both be high. But to your first question is,
I don't think you can remove it from distribution. In the future, what I would do is submit to CreateSpace and don't publish it, because you can still buy copies from CreateSpace without publishing it. Or, shoot, no, it's going to have proof on the very last page, though. So you might have to publish it, but not to Amazon. I would have to look. I forget the technicalities of that, but that's how I would do it.
All right, let's see. Jen says, love Jeff Walker. Awesome. Lisa says, hello, I'm completing a newbie to book writing, so glad for this awesome template. I want to get back to school, got a job in the industry, and finally came to the realization it's not a good fit for me, so I'm reinventing myself and finally pursuing writing. Kind of scary. Well, first of all, welcome to the group. There's a lot of people just like you here. Yeah. We're all going through it together.
And great to have you. Great to have you in a real school.
All right, the next thing she posted here is historical fiction involving classical arts. Is that niche too small?
No, there's no such thing as a niche too small.
All right. Jackie says, Sean Sumner Chandler, I for one really appreciate your honesty. We need the truth. So great. That's what, we want to make sure that we're definitely being honest with each other to make everybody better. So we appreciate that from you guys as well. And we'll continue to bring it while we're here. Blythe says, kind of similar to another question, but the climax of my personal book has to do with an altercation with my mother-in-law. I kind of need to be specific and want to be real. How do I do that without hurting feelings? I'm over it. It turned out for the best, but I'm worried about hurt against her being in print.
It's impossible to tell the story without hurting people's feelings. So me personally, I'd have one-on-one conversations with people if you're still on talking terms. Like you got a couple options here, right? Have one-on-one conversations. Say, hey, I try to be as polite as possible, but I also have to be honest, so that it may offend you, but that's not my intent, and I just want to let you know ahead of time. Or the second is, if you're not on speaking terms, you just don't talk to them. And I guess the third option is, if you're really, really worried about it, you could use potentially change their names.
All right, Robbie says, Kindle launched on 7/30, hit #1 in 3 categories. It's 17, 18 in 2 categories, and still in the 30s for several others. Paperback launches soon. Delay was to get the audiobook and lead magnet. Should I be running AMS ads, which I know nothing about, to strongly launch my paperback? I'm going to the launch team as well, so I can reach out to 200 reviews to about 160 worldwide. Honestly, I think AMS ads are great, but that's a long term. Like, I would really think of that as the kind of the marathon and not the sprint. So I wouldn't worry about them for the launch. Like, I would still go set them up, but it wouldn't be my priority. That's for that longevity and that long term growth, because they're not going to stack. They're not even going to spend the money you allow them to spend usually on ads. So I would focus your time more on the launch team and doing all the other things that you normally do, and think about that more as a long term strategy.
Yeah, I mean, and depending on how much time you have, you could certainly go ahead and set them up to run to the Kindle version, and then when your print book gets added, that'll still do it. Like, it'll still run to both of them. But like I mentioned or like Sean just mentioned, it's definitely a long-term approach. It's hard to ramp up AMS ads. It's kind of like a slow putt and a slow improvement.
All right, Teresa says, I'm not finding the same categories the KDP choices I found on Kindle Amazon. Is it common? And how I know I'm picking the right categories?
Yes, great question. Laura, we need to get something about this in the course. This is something that comes up pretty often around the choosing categories piece. We just need to get another video in there. So this is very common. The front end and the back end of Amazon are different. So it's crazy, I know, but they don't match up. So you pick the one that's closest, and then cross your fingers. Press the publish button and hope it falls in the right category. And there's 2 pieces of good news. Number 1, if it doesn't, you can just reach out to them and ask them to change it in that category. And then number 2, we have a blog post on this as well. You can get approved for up to 8 more categories. And we have a blog post on that as well. So there's 2 things you can do post-launch to correct that.
All right. Let's see where we at next here. This is Jenny, again, interested in using a pen name for my book. I'm also a bit worried about the people who know me or say they're friends being critical or judging me for what I choose to write about. So I prefer to have a pen name. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, you can certainly do it. This is personal preference. I would never do it, and that's my personal preference. Most of the people that I've talked to that have done pen names for, let's see, oh, you didn't specify whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. Most of the people that I know who have done it for nonfiction have regretted it. So I personally wouldn't, but this is you're up to you.
See, Robbie Samuel says, I'm uploading CreateSpace. There was the option to bundle my Kindle books so we could download it as a discount. It said $2.99 or less. I didn't see $2.99 option in the drop down, only $1.99 cents are free. What price point do you recommend for that bundle? Paperback is $19.99, so a higher book than most in that category.
I would do a small additional fee, as small as possible, so that they can read it in both formats. This is just like it's doing your readers a favor and helping them be more likely to consume the content, which means they're more likely to continue a relationship in other avenues.
All right, Carol says, thanks for always sharing thoughts, plus guests sharing their experience. Your really personal personal with the community. I like that. I've learned so much. I will put in all these ideas when the time comes. What happens right after I finish my first draft?
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, Carol. I'm going to give maybe a harsh piece of advice, which is don't worry about that. Only focus on finishing your rough draft, and I promise you, as soon as you get there, we'll be here to give you the feedback that you need. But everything else besides finishing your rough draft is just a distraction. And obviously, if you're going through the course, you probably saw me in the video where I say don't watch any other videos until you finish your rough draft. So don't worry about it. Just keep plugging away.
All right, Jeff says, thanks for the input. Expect a ton of webinar questions next week.
Awesome.
Says Layla says, I'm a pediatric dentist writing on how to care for your kids' teeth from birth through their teenage years, which is a great book. I have 2 kids that I think we should be reading that book. Should I incorporate videos and pics for the ebook version or have it available on my website like Keller and Pappas did on the one and Papasan did on the one thing?
This is a great topic, and I would actually use what you just said. It's probably your title, but it's based on the quotes around it. If not, I would use it as your title because that's perfect and very descriptive. And I would not put it in the book. I would have it available on your website via opt-in.
All right, Teresa says, since my launch is scheduled for this Sunday, is Thursday a good day to publish, or should I rethink this?
If you're talking about uploading and submitting to the site, then yeah, Thursday, Friday is a good time. But Sunday will be the actual launch day, and just follow the documentation as we have it lined out in the course for that.
Yeah, I actually recommend doing it as early as possible. So if your Thursdays, give yourself a buffer. The last thing you want to be doing is stressed out that things aren't like ready for you yet. Give yourself another day buffer, whatever that day happens to be. Lorraine says, thanks for my answer. Jen says, would you be able to share possible dates for the weekend workshop? Looks like Laura already was on this. So thank you, Laura.
Yep. And I know we posted this in the it's in the slides for this. But if that's something that you're interested, be sure to fill out an application like tonight or tomorrow at the latest, because that's first come, first serve. And the spots are about to fill up, or at the very latest, we'll close out reservations for that this Thursday.
All right, guys, and we are coming close to the hour here, so I'm going to say last call for questions. We're going to try and get through these last ones. We do have a hard stop at 7, or whatever happened, at the hour. I guess it's 7 for Chandler and I, but different around. So we're going through questions here.
Robbie says, update, it did go away. I removed the distribution channels, and it took a couple hours, but it's no longer available on Amazon. That's awesome. Sammy Har, what do you think about having different pen names for different genres? I want to write fantasy and self-help. Joanna,
you see people like Joanna Penn who they just put initials and then the name, so it can work really well if you're trying to distinguish the two, especially if you think that you want them separate. Then yeah, but I wouldn't make it something really far-fetched. I usually say initials and last name is a great way to do it. Let's see. Deanna says, I was watching some of the videos in the M1 talking about how to find a book idea from scratch. Walk us through. It showed me that the tagline are very important. My book is about mindset and positive thinking and affirmations, but I think it's way overdone and isn't going to sell. My research proved that books affirmations, the title, rank really low, so 62,000 at best. Can you speak a little bit about how creating title and tagline sells without being misleading is still getting the book into the hands of people that would benefit from it?
Yeah, Laura linked up a helpful blog post, and I'm not sure how far you are in the process of doing this book. Deanna, it seems like you're in the beginning process. So my personal advice would be don't even worry about the title until you finish the rough draft. This is always the last thing that I do. And the chances are what you're looking at is because affirmations is a very niche term. So you could potentially change the wording in the hook, and that would change things just a little bit. But personally, I wouldn't worry about the title until the very end. And then at that point, I can speak a lot more about the tagline without being misleading, but making it beneficial. We're just running up against time here.
And then Lana says you have the the link for my webinar. I know that you're in the 1-year MC, so if you didn't get that via email, I'll send that to you because I know that you're in that group as well.
Cool. Right. Yeah, Barry says, so would you give away the alt endings for free to solve the problem? I just would personally, Barry, I wouldn't attempt this because it's just pretty complicated from an execution perspective. So I would keep it simple, but that's just me.
And I've got Kathy and a couple people saying, yeah, it's 10 p.m. And then Lena says it's 10 a.m. So we got people all over the world hanging out with us today or tonight.
Yeah. Lana says, you guys are the best. Thank you for all of your amazing feedback. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us. We are right up against time here. So we want to be respectful of your time. So be sure to go ahead and press the going button for next week's Hangout. We're here every week, so don't feel like you got to get your all of your questions answered for the whole time. Just ask the questions as they come. We're here every single week, so be sure to go ahead and press the going button for next week, as well as yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.